Good day, I'm Junior Researcher Adam Southgate, and today's lecture will be covering the Entropic spheres I Cerdded in Farw. I'd appreciate that all hunters please subscribe as to not miss any future lectures, and also, if you enjoy the lecture and find it informative, please like the video and click the bell to ensure you do not miss any future announcements. I would also be very happy to hear your thoughts, views, and stories of your interactions with the monsters of the spheres in the comment area of this video, along with any questions you may have. So, to begin, as always, we'll start with our general announcements. Firstly, the large-scale operation to deal with the Pessin Iscleveithua is still ongoing. The hunters have broken up into multiple teams, each attempting to lure the entities into different directions to hopefully split the horde, making it easier to deal with. This plan has been aided due to the large number of cattle that have been pre-marked by the entities but not yet devoured. We've received reports from multiple teams so far who have succeeded in destroying one of these smaller groups. A team containing hunters Greedy Ghoul and Kathy Duggar 6545 were able, with the use of a marked cow, to lead a group of 8 of the abomination entities into a small gorge. Once the Pessin Iscleveithua were in place, the team lit the ground beneath the entities while also using large sheets of metal to trap them in place as they burned. The trap they set was rather clever, if expensive, soaking the ground in petrol beforehand and also taking advantage of the entity's limited physical strength, allowing the hunters to simply hold the metal sheets in place. Another successful team contained hunters OTT Light and a very sexy Cheeto, who again, with the use of a marked animal, were able to lure a group of entities into a disused quarry. Once they were sure all the entities within the small pack were in position, they opened fire, with a wide variety of ranged weaponry, with only 2 of the creatures escaping the kill zone to link back up with the larger horde. A more conventional approach to the problem, but still very effective to be sure. The operation is progressing well, and we estimate that all the entities should be eliminated within the next few months. This is a massive relief, as if left unchecked, they may have become a far larger issue with far-reaching consequences. If any important developments with the contract take place, I will keep you informed. However, if it continues with the efficacy that it is, you most likely won't hear any more on the subject from myself. Secondly, I've been asked to speak to you on behalf of Alwydd Intropic Armory. The successor to an ancient weaponsmith guild, Alwydd Intropic Armory is today the best place to procure fine melee weapons built with the techniques and traditions of ages long past. Their focus on individually forging their collection instead of machine pressing them en masse has earned them a reputation for quality and reliability. Their blades, hammers, axes, spears, and maces are second to none and will be forged to your exact specifications. While Alwydd Intropic Armory does have a strong belief in tradition, they are not afraid to innovate, with them also supplying weapons hammered from cold iron and forged from a wide variety of materials to fit your needs. Alwydd Intropic Armory is currently offering the Work for Steel deal, where those hunters who cannot currently afford to purchase from their collection can instead offer to work at the forge for a set period, at the end of which they can receive a brand new sword as payment for their labour. Alwydd Intropic Armory is also offering combat training to hunters for a modest fee. Those that take the course will be able to take part in group training with Master Hunter Hearth, who will lead you through his own personal training regimen. While other weapon manufacturers are messing around with gas, guns, and clockwork, Alwydd Intropic Armory says that if these weapons worked for our predecessors, why wouldn't they work for us? Alwydd Intropic Armory, for a more civilized age. Before we can discuss I Cerdded in Farw in any detail, we must first explain the entities of the Entropic sphere's propensity to possess individuals. The entropic sphere is unique in that, unlike other spheres where individuals will breach our sphere one at a time, when the entropic sphere breaches, it's more of a flood. It has been theorized that this is due to the entropic sphere being an entire universe filled with spirits to the point where there is no empty space available. In their home universe, this is not an issue, as spirits are mindless things that are more comparable to an object than a being. The problems start when they enter our sphere. They have permeated our universe to the point that they are nearly everywhere, floating past and through everything in their intangible way. The issues begin due to a strange effect caused by their proximity to sentient life, where what was mindless begins to think. In many cases, they will transform into a more powerful and dangerous version of a spirit when exposed to extreme emotion and death. However, in some cases, instead of shifting their form, they will attempt to inhabit a living individual. This fusion of spheres can create a wide variety of monstrous entities such as the vampire. However, they all do share one commonality between them, a lack of something fundamental. This can be almost anything, as with the previous example, vampires lack the ability to feel both their own emotions and physical sensations. However, the spirit that shares the individual's body will attempt to compensate for this issue. The problem with this is that due to their fundamental lack of understanding of our sphere, this compensation often worsens the situation overall. Again, with vampires, while they cannot feel themselves, they can feel others' emotions and sensations. With vampires, this causes a degradation in the individual's mind over time, very much like an addiction, where they crave stronger sensations the longer they live. Cerdded in Farw, like the vampire, are individuals who have been unlucky enough to be inhabited by a spirit. In this case, however, the individual will lose the ability to both absorb nutrients or feel relief from hunger. The spirit attempts to compensate for this issue by not allowing the inhabited person to die. This, as I'm sure you can easily imagine, causes some rather catastrophic complications. After initial habitation, the afflicted individual may not even notice anything is wrong, continuing their life as normal. However, usually by the second day, the problems begin to surface. No matter how much the individual eats, their hunger is not sated. Their stomach feels to them completely empty, despite the opposite being the case. As time passes without the issue resolving, they may attempt to contact a health professional who will not be able to find anything physically wrong with the individual. The problems worsen as the victim becomes desperate enough to eat to the point of vomiting, desperate for some relief from the hunger pain. However, this is still the softer side of the affliction. As weeks begin to pass, the individual will begin to rapidly lose weight as the food they ravenously devour simply passes through their system, their mind starved of energy, becoming irrational and desperate. Most victims at this stage will be rushed to intensive care, where the doctors will attempt to both diagnose why they are losing so much weight while also attempting to find alternative ways to feed them. Frustration builds with each failed solution, and the victim becomes even more erratic. This will usually be the tipping point. The victim will find a secluded place, driven to the very limits of the human experience of hunger, and attempt to eat as much as, and then more than, their body can hold. The victim will feel their stomach rupture inside of them, experiencing the intense pain. However, the hunger and the madness brought on by the paradox of eating but still starving will drive them forward until the inevitable happens. The chest cavity will split open, the skin stretched past its limit as the undigested food spills to the ground. However, at this point, the victim is past caring and will begin even eating that which has spilled out of them. There is still a flicker of a rational mind still within them at this stage, however, it is not long for this world. If the victim is not dealt with now, they will begin to enter the final stage, where despite not being able to even hold food within their bodies anymore, they will begin devouring anything in sight, even inorganic matter. As time passes, the mind will slowly shut down until only the most basic of functions remain. This is where they enter the full final stage. The victim at this point has ceased to possess anything resembling a human mind, being feral and immediately aggressive to any around it. They will fear large groups of people, instead isolating themselves in a dark corner of the world. Here they will continue their everlasting quest for satiation, typically shoveling large handfuls of dirt into their mouths, only for them to then spill out again, ready to be lifted once more. As stated, whatever is left of their minds at this point is not what one would consider human, as once they have spotted any living being that is alone within their territory, they will attack. Using their teeth and nails, they will rip into any animal or person who stumbles upon them. However, they are not truly attempting to kill, though this is obviously a byproduct, but to eat. They will tear into their prey with a desperate fervor, attempting to rip handfuls of flesh from them and immediately ramming them into their mouths. The luckless individual who fell afoul of Cerdded in Farw will instead fall into the same cycle of being chewed, swallowed, falling out of what was the stomach, being lifted from the floor, and repeat. It would be a logical conclusion to believe that Cerdded in Farw would, especially in the later stages, be rather physically weak. However, this is unfortunately not the case. While their muscles do waste away to an uncomfortable degree with the rest of their bodies, due to the spirit inhabiting them, they retain the same strength they did before inhabitation. This paradoxical effect has been witnessed to go as far as them being able to still move and control their limbs where no muscle is present. They possess some other anomalous abilities also brought on by the spirit that make dealing with them all the harder. Firstly, discovered through testing, hearing, sight, and smell have all been dialed up to the limit of human ability. However, this is not the remarkable part, as each of these senses appear to work without the usually required medium. As such, they can see in total darkness and both smell and hear in total vacuum, which I'm sure you know is impossible by our sphere's laws. Secondly, their immortality. Apart from simply keeping them alive long past the point where they should have starved to death, they also remained living after any possible level of bodily destruction. This has been pushed to the point where their bodies have been completely burned to ash, and then the ash begins to attempt to eat. Finally, a complete disconnect to pain caused by an outside source. While this is not technically an anomalous ability, it is caused by an anomalous event, therefore I will include it. Simply put, within the final stage, the pain and madness caused by the hunger is so great that no other pain stimuli appears to register. They have been witnessed charging through both razor wire and gunfire, their bodies being ripped to shreds, but still advancing to what they intend to eat. While they are essentially still human, they are humanity unbound, closer in behavior to beast than man, and with a single-minded yet unattainable goal that they will go through any obstacle to reach, despite what is done to them along the way. So the obvious question arises, how do we deal with them? For most cases, it is a simple matter of collection, as once they seek medical help, our system will flag them. However, even today, there are those cases of individuals that slip our net. While the Cerdded in Farw, as they are known, are a different beast entirely, requiring both skill and a larger degree of firepower than one would imagine. While they do require their physical bodies in some form to interact with the world around them, they require less than you would think. For instance, it has been noted that Cerdded in Farw, even without its head, will still act as though it is fully intact, knowing exactly where its prey is located, then swallowing its food down its exposed neck. Your aim should be to remove the creature's limbs from the body so that it is unable to advance. This is obviously more difficult than it first sounds, however, there have been weapons created specifically for the task, otherwise, as stated, use a large degree of firepower. Once the Cerdded Farw is incapacitated, you will need to secure all of the individual for transport. This again can be difficult, as it will still be actively attempting to bite you. Once in our custody, the Cerdded Farw will be safely secured within a concrete block and stored within what was an old disused coal mine, now our holding facility. This situation is not ideal due to the suffering that is continued by it. However, the Order does destroy the brain of the individual before sealing it, as this will kill what is left of the human inside the body. This can be difficult to understand at times, as the spirit's actions are in complete sync with the humans, so it appears as though nothing has changed. However, in actuality, the human has died and the spirit has taken full control over the body. This is not a perfect solution, as it still leaves the spirit to suffer locked in concrete. However, we have yet to find a way to break the link between body and entity. We are still attempting to find a way to sever their bond and return them back to their benign state, which is why we store them as intact as possible instead of burning them to ash first. But that will be all for today, with Arthur's might and Merlin's wisdom. Thank you.